I wonder if this is going to work. Okay, I think I have figured out some of these problems. I think I have it worked out now. I can go live on YouTube, which I am right now. And there's a link on the top description here. If you guys can go over there, just click on that link that's right at the top of your page right now. Then it shares across everything. And next week I can set it up across more accounts because right now I just have a few of them that I can share to. So I have the Facebook, linked through my YouTube. So the problem is it's backward. Everything is still going to be backward. So that part bites, but at least we got it working. And I've been at it for about 40 minutes, trying to get it to not be backward, trying to get it all to work out better. And, it is what it is. So if you guys can click on the link at the top that says to watch live show right now, click here, and it's got a YouTube link. Then that is my YouTube channel, and I can stream live to Twitter. I'm going to have to hook up the Instagram. I have to hook up the Krista Robbins blog page, and I have to hook up the Aspirations WS page. And the other beauty to this is if you guys will all just click on that link, then it'll also, next week, not this week because I didn't have time to set it up, but it'll also finally do the thing I've been wanting where it goes live to the website as well. And I will only have to go live in one place, which would be awesome. And then I can just convince you guys to get over there every week if I have to, from this Facebook page where everyone signs up, where everyone shows up. Okay, so this week, I know you can't see this. I apologize. This is what it looks like on the computer. I don't know if it's, because, I mean, my computer's only like 3 years old. It's not very old. But my picture looks a lot better on the iPhone. But the iPhone does all kinds of weird things with, it twists it back and forth, and it's backwards on there too. And this way I could do it on the YouTube. So the links are, you guys are coming from Krista Robbins. There's a Krista Robbins blog page on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/Krista Robbins blog. In case you weren't here last week, I think I created it last week. It might have been the week before when I first started doing the show again. For this season, because we're back, I created the Krista Robbins blog page. So it's not just the personal page for Krista Robbins. It's actually called Krista Robbins blog. And that's because, on Facebook, and that's because the Krista Robbins personal page maxes out at 5,000. And of course, you know, I've been way over that for a long time. So it's been really limiting how much of an audience I could build up as I'm trying to figure out all this technology going into the video world instead of just doing the blogging, the writing. So now we've got the Krista Robbins blog page on Facebook, and I'm trying to get this YouTube channel going better. You know, I'll work out the kinks on that as time goes on, since it's the first time I've ever done to that, so that the screen will hopefully look better and it won't be backward on you. So the topic tonight is, what is your personality? And we're going to go over a little bit from last week. Last week I asked everyone, what are your best traits? What is your character? What do others say about you? And the assignment was to go and ask them this week about you. What do your friends say about you? What traits do they say you have? So anybody that wants to write those comments in and tell me what people said when you ask them for positive traits about you, please type those in. Last week we got honest. I forget I should have looked them up and remembered what we had. But last week, one of them I remember is honest, because that's one of the best traits you can have. And then last week's ending was, what does your Facebook page, what do your social media pages say about you? You know, what do they show your traits and your characteristics are? And we aren't going to have an award winner this week because I didn't have time to go into all the pages and look, because I'm also working. So never give up. Okay, good. So one of somebody's great traits is never giving up. And that's Donald, who had a serious accident. So it's important when something really tragic happens in your life that changes your whole life, that you never give up. So that's really awesome. I'm going to say some hellos before we get into this week's topics. And we've got Donald, Sergio, Brian, Frederick, John, Paul, Mark. Sorry, I had a joke in my head. John, Paul. I'm sure you know where I'm going with that. Rob, Brian, Elgin, Sujat Miko, Kurt, Ryan, Chris, Kyle, Greg, Jonathan, Scott, Rich, David, Max, William, Joseph. And I can't go any further back than that. And on YouTube, nobody's switched over yet. Please click on the link so you go to the YouTube page. All right, so this week, we're going to talk about something important this week. I know that I want to make this a really positive show this year, and I want to focus on the great things about people. But as always, education comes to me. I can't help it, and experiences happen in life. So I do have some things that I want to talk about tonight, some topics that I want to talk about tonight that are educational as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read this, and I posted earlier for people to go and watch listen to these videos that I have a link to on the pages, and it's sermons. So I know some people aren't Christians and some people don't want to be, beat over the head with Christianity. So listen, education, as I say all the time, education comes in every form. And you need to get over your issues about religion and just learn from it. This show isn't about religion. I don't beat you over the head with religion, but some of the stuff that I talk about has a religious tone to it, or has come from sermons that I've heard, or from messages that I get because I'm a believer. So don't get caught up in the semantics of what you believe. Don't get caught up in that stuff. And that's part of what tonight's show is going to be about, is the semantics, that everyone gets bogged down in semantics while we're supposed to be learning to become our best selves. That's what life is for, is to become our best selves and to help others become their best selves, to love each other unconditionally and live in purest peace 24/7, 365, like the book says. So don't get caught up in the semantics of it all. Learn from every resource you can learn from. So this particular resource is called Days of Praise, and it's something I read before bed. It's this. I'm going to just read some highlights of this one. Strong in grace. The verse is 2 Timothy 2:1. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus. In the Old Testament, grace is used 69 times. In the New Testament, it's used 156 times. And it often seems to emphasize God's personal empowerment or the granting of his unique spiritual favor. Ephesians 2:8-9, for by grace and are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Once the saving grace has been given, the believer is expected to use that grace with victory in mind, confidence that empowers our spiritual life and witness. We are to be strong in the grace that is Christ Jesus. Hence, we are to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, Ephesians 6:10, as we wrestle against the powers of darkness that battle us unceasingly. God's grace is strong enough to counter every worldly circumstance. We must remember, however, that even the greatest heroes of the faith endured intense opposition, seasons of pain and privation, which is lacking the essentials such as food and warmth, and occasionally were tortured to death. Hebrews 11:32-38. God's strong grace is sufficient. Therefore, the other thing over here is from Philippians 2:1-2, and it talks about disunity that ultimately comes from pride, which is in verse 3, and it talks about the Holy Spirit produces in the life of a believer the incentive to unity. When believers truly love one another in this fashion, unity prevails. Fellowship of the Spirit. The Holy Spirit makes possible a precious relationship between us. Through the Spirit's empowering, our wills can be molded, enabling us to live in unity with our fellow saints. In the Western world, the heart is referred to as the seat of our innermost affections, here called mercies, or literally, compassionate yearnings and actions. When Christians have tender compassion for one another, divisions cease. The four prerequisites for unity are then humility, Spirit-produced agape love, unconditional love, purest peace, a yielding of the will of each believer to the Spirit, so yielding to one another and yielding to God, and tenderness toward one another. And I'm trying to make it not so overwhelming with the Christian message. Oh, that's the old one. Okay, so the topics for tonight are, the first thing I want to say is bitterness turns your heart hard and wounded people act out. So when someone is acting up, when you're not getting along with someone, or when, two people just rub each other the wrong way, when someone is bitter or they're expressing negative thoughts about someone else, it is because they're wounded within themselves. So I'm not going to say that part yet. That part I'm going to say after. So tonight's message is, what is your nature? What is your personality? And what it should be, obviously, is the unconditional virtues, which is from Galatians 5. We should have unconditional love, goodwill toward all, a clean spirit, living in love and truth and light. Okay, so tonight's tough topic, before, I don't know if I should say this one first or if I should say that one first. Okay, I'm going to say this one first because it's fun. So, hi. So, how are you seeing the world and the things that happen in your life and the things that happen to other people when you're having conversations with your friends? Are you seeing them through dark sunglasses, not seeing everything like you have blinders on because it's dark and you're viewing the world through dark glasses? Or option 2, rose-colored glasses with no real vision, just magnifying on one or a few things. So you're looking at the world from a positive perspective, but you're magnified on only certain things. Or, now this is going to be really bad when I put these on because I have my contacts in. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to look through these at all. This may freak out my vision totally. Or I'm going to try and not even look through them. I'll look like an old rickety grandma. Prescription lenses with a rosy tint. Oof. So that you're seeing everything the way it really is. And you're getting all the little details because you have prescription rose-colored glasses on. So you're seeing the world from a positive perspective. And now why I'm saying this is because I want to know what kind of a friend you are. Are you a gossiper? Are you validating your friends when they come to talk to you about things by bashing others? Are you judgmental, negative about people who you don't? Wait a minute. Judgmental, negative about people who... Oh, oh my gosh. Because you don't think they're like you. So you're judgmental about people because they're not like you or you don't think they're like you. Or because you make assumptions about someone based on what you're seeing. And now that's why I wanted to talk about bitterness turns your heart hard and wounded people act out. So a lot of times people tell somebody that, or, people talk. So like, say for example, you're talking to somebody, you're talking to a friend of yours, and your friend is speaking negatively about someone that they're dealing with, like maybe they're dating someone. And so you're talking to them and you're thinking that you want to bond with your friend. So you're going to say things to your friend based on whatever information, the one-sided information that your friend is giving. So you're going to bond with your friend and you're going to say whatever it is that you feel supports your friend in that moment. Some people don't do this. My friends don't do this. In fact, my friends would more likely argue with me about something than they would to make me feel good about it and validate what I have to say. But that's because that's the types of friends that I choose. I choose independent thinkers. That's the type of people that I appreciate most. But what kind of friend are you? Are you the type of person that's going to put someone else down in order to make your friend feel better? Because you're not doing your friend any favors by doing that. You're certainly not helping your friend's goals and your friend's relationships, which is in here as well. Because the purpose of conversation is for a goal. You might have to wait until I get there. So lift up individuals, lift up all individuals. Don't just lift up your friend in that moment to make your friend feel better in that moment and just to have an okay, conversation with your friend in the moment. If your friend is doing something wrong, call your friend out on it. It's accountability. We all need accountability. Nobody's going to become a better person by just bashing other people, that really they're having that same problem with multiple people. If they're having that same problem with multiple people, there's a reason they're having that problem with more than one person. And also, you know, you've got those same feelings and those same things that you're thinking, but instead of validating those to your friend, you want to support your friend, so you're not validating those. So lift up individuals, all of our neighbors. You know, I know it's really popular in our society right now to be bashing other people that are different from us. You know, I don't personally do this and I don't agree with this at all, but it's huge in our society right now to be bashing on cops, to be bashing on this race, to be bashing on that race, to be prejudiced against this nationality, you know, to be saying something about this particular type of person, or that particular type of person, or this political choice or that political choice. We are not called to care about what someone else thinks or feels or believes in or supports. We are not called to care about that. We are called to love one another. That is the only thing we're called to do. That's it. You've got no other responsibilities in this world. When the end of the world comes, I can absolutely guarantee you God is not going to care if you were a Democrat or a Republican, if you were black or white. It's not going to happen. Nobody cares about that in the real realm of what this purpose of our existence is for. So stop getting caught up in the semantics of disagreeing with everyone, because the purpose of our lives is unconditional love and purest peace and unity. And the 4 prerequisites, again, that it said in there for unity are humility, unconditional love, yielding of our will for the betterment of our relationships and our relationships with all others, not just with a couple of them that we pick and choose, but relationships with all others, and tenderness toward all others. Glow in love. Okay, that one is a good one, but that one's going to come after. Grace, kindness, goodness, calmness, sweetness, caring, compassionate, emotionally giving. These are traits that we should have. These are unconditional virtues that we should have in our interactions with others. Believe me, I don't have these interactions with others either. I try. That's why I have this show, because I want to become better. And as I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to teach other people because it helps me to be better myself. So don't judge me either, because that's part of how this show ended up coming into existence, is because of that negative attitude. People watch 5 minutes of the show and have a comment because they are not Christian and they can't bond with it, or because they can't get over that part of it, or they look at me and they don't see a wounded person who's trying to become a better person. They don't see, you know, a wounded person with bitterness and pain in my own life. They see, oh, she talks about how she has a book, and so she's arrogant. I'm not arrogant. I'm confident and strong because I'm working hard toward positive goals. You know, I'm strong, hopefully in grace, because the whole purpose of this entire show, the whole reason I do this, is to give this to you guys for free. I don't get paid for any of this. I've had that website since 1999, aspirationsws.com. I don't get paid for that. I don't make money off of any of this. You know, I have a, oh, and the second book is published. It's out. So I have the first one and the second one out of the 10 books. Yay! And I'm proud of myself. That's an accomplishment. Since I was in 7th grade, that was a goal of mine. That's an accomplishment that for years I had to overcome self-esteem issues, huge self-esteem issues, huge negative talk in my head for my whole life, even currently that I'm still going through, just to get these books out. That's an accomplishment for me, something that I am extremely proud of myself for, something that gives my life meaning. Everything that I've been through, I throw it into my writing to help other people, because otherwise I've just lived this hard life. I mean, this horrible hard life with all these awful things happening that I had to overcome. I want to help other people. I want to share that with other people so that you guys can have that hope and that confidence and the skills to get through that stuff as well. That's not arrogance. That's not narcissism. That's not too confident. That's overcoming things. Sometimes when you're pushing through the lemon tree jungle with a machete, I'm sorry, but that's tough work. You're not going to be like super sweet and super calm and super like mellow when you're in the middle of beating down lemon trees in the jungle with a machete. You have to push through life sometimes, just get through it. Life can be really, really hard. And I'm glad that Donald said what he said, because it's exactly one of the best traits that I feel like I have. And I feel like that's a great trait for other people to have as well, is the ability to push through tenaciously when trouble hits. You know, you got to weather for the storm. You got to lock it all down and board it all up and barricade yourself in and push through it sometimes. You know, you just have to do that. So, oh, I don't even have my drink. So I may have to get one because I'm having, I've got a dry throat. So grace, kindness, goodness, calmness, sweetness, caring, compassionate, and emotionally giving. Okay, so unity, love, bonding, those are our goals. When you're in a friendship and you're talking to somebody, you're giving somebody advice, you want to move others toward their positive goals. So if you're giving someone advice and they're talking to you or they're venting to you, let's say they're venting. Let's say, you know, I call up and I'm upset and I'm venting at you. I'm not going to want you to sit there and just listen. I'm not going to want you to bash other people that I'm talking about, because it's going to ruin my relationship with the other people by having that negative talk in my head. Instead, I want you to help move toward the goal. What is the goal? The goal is unity. The goal is unconditional love, purest peace, you know, bonding with other people, not pulling or pushing them away from their goals. Sometimes our advice, or what we call support, is the opposite of supportive. Search yourself during your conversations so that what you're offering to others in that conversation helps them with their ultimate goals in life, helps them with their goals. What are they trying to accomplish with this conversation? What are they trying to accomplish in the relationship that they're having? And support them in that. So I was listening to the sermons all day because I talked to my pastor, I think it was yesterday, who got the award, the Unconditional Virtues Award last time. And we were so I asked about that question that I had last week, that I talked about last week on the show, which was, do only Christians have God inside of us, have the Holy Spirit, inside of us? Christians who've accepted, you know, God, Jesus. Or do all people have the Holy Spirit within us because Jesus died on the cross and rose again? So that was to save us from our sin. I have studied the Bible extensively for years, and I've read the Bible cover to cover 3 times. I mean, I've got tons and tons of notes in here. Like I've got, like, you know, you pull up any page, even the front, you know, even the very, very front, and I've got notes everywhere. Like, I mean, I'm, you know, a junkie for this revelation. You know, I study the Bible, and I really didn't even know this. As a Christian who goes to church and everything, I didn't know this. And it blew my mind when I was in a church. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. I went to a different church that's near where I live now, because I was running late. And that pastor said that non-Christians don't have the Holy Spirit inside of them, that Christians have the Holy Spirit dwelling in us because we ask for that. And then I went up to him after the service and I asked him questions, and I asked him for verses, which he did give me, the papers by my bed, with the exact, oh no, it isn't, it's right there, with the exact verses. So if anybody wants them, I can give you the verses to look it up. It's in Acts. The biggest portion is in Acts. And so I asked my pastor, because I was blown away by this. And I really, I've had a lot of people ask me questions like, you hear God? What is it like when God speaks to you? That's kind of crazy. Like, God doesn't speak to me. And other things, like I try to pray, I try to talk to God, and he doesn't answer me. I hear these kinds of things from people, or they don't feel the presence of God, so they don't believe that there is a God. And so because people have asked me that question, I have tried my best to answer whatever questions people ask me. And since I studied, I'm an intellectual person, and I'm an avid reader, and I didn't believe in the Bible for many, many years. Most of my adult life, I didn't believe in the Bible. I believed it was written by men. And then I got some crucially important information that completely changed my entire world. And it was like dominoes. Everything just clicked into place when my ex, before I became a born-again Christian, I said, why is that? We were in church one day, and we used to write each other little notes. We used to go to the workshops and the relationship workshops, the marriage workshops, and church, and I would have questions. So I would ask him questions, and we would pass little notes back and forth. And I said, and it was obviously shorthand, but essentially the question was, why is the Old Testament different from the New Testament? And it says, pigs are unclean, so you can't eat pork. And then in the New Testament, it says, I created all things, so all things are okay to eat, basically, summarizing, paraphrasing. Things like that. And he said, the Old Testament is a history book. He didn't word it all out like that, but that's what he said. It completely blew my mind when he said that, because everything made sense to me finally. And it's totally true. And there's basis for that everywhere else too. The Ode of Gilgamesh is the first written word ever, chiseled on stones back in the beginning of time, the beginning of the earth. And they literally have the same stuff that's in the first couple books of the Old Testament, which is unbelievable. And it's not a religious book. It's not a Christian book. It's not a Bible, anything like that. So let me just slow my roll. I'm trying to go fast because time is flying by. And I had a lot to go over tonight. All right, so we want to overcome the enemy. We want to overcome those negative influences in our lives. And we want to gain value from God's perspective. So when someone says something negative about you, which is what I did this week, after someone said something horrible to me that really destroyed my psyche, broke my matrix again, because somehow people always know exactly how to do that and exactly the one thing to say that really gets you. And when that happened, the first thing I did was prayed. And I went home, I cried my eyes out, and I sat and just talked to God. And for the next couple of days, because I almost didn't do the show this week, I almost canceled the show that day. Like, if that's what people are getting out of it, if that's how people are going to perceive it, then I'm not going to do the show anymore. That's not okay for people to be watching the show just to bash me and to make fun of me, to say, negative things about me, because I'm putting myself all out there. And I had to really listen to really get this message, because this is something that I struggle with often. The message is basically this. When people tell you things, especially some things that are true, or some things that other people have also said, it's really easy to fall into the pattern of, woe is me, I suck, people don't like me, something's wrong with me, thinking all of these negative thoughts. And I actually wrote down the ones that I have, what emotionally beats me up. I'm hard to love. I'm a screw up. I can't do anything right. It's all my fault because I'm the one that came from a difficult home. So I'm the one that is to blame when things go wrong. It's my fault because I'm not a better person. You know, I put myself out there because I want to try to be a better person, and I want to try to be an example in helping other people to become a better person. And in doing so, I put myself on the chopping block so that I can come under attack. And that stuff hurts. You know, it may not seem like I have a breakable spirit. It may not seem like I have self-esteem issues. It may not seem like, you know, I've ever been hurt, or that I have a wounded personality and that sometimes I feel like acting out. Or sometimes I say things like last week I said in the show something that I wish I didn't say. And that happens often. You know, I'm speaking off the cuff here, most of the things that I'm saying. And last week I said, I'm hard to love. That is negative self-talk that I should not be saying. And I rewatch the shows so that I can, you know, see how things are, you know, how things are going and how things are progressing in the show. And so I always watch the shows right after I record them. And this time I watched it again, and I watched each of the shows that I've done, the new shows that I've done, because I wanted to see how could this person, this total stranger, that's a friend of a friend, watch my show and say such things about it, when that's the opposite of the purpose and the goal of the show. And it's the opposite of how I feel like I am as a person. And so I watched the show to see where that person could come up with that. How could that person feel that way? How could that person think that? And so, you know, really, oh, there's a lot of comments. I'm sorry, guys. I'll have to get back to the comments. So I said, I'm hard to love. And that one of the reasons I really love my pastor is because he is the type of person that puts forth a lot of effort and has learned how to just really naturally be unconditionally loving and respond to you no matter what. You know, we can disagree. The other thing I said is that I argue with my pastor. It's not an argument like you guys probably think of when I say argument. Like if somebody says argument, you think you're like, you know, two people yelling at each other. I'm not yelling at my pastor. My pastor and I disagree on things as he's trying to teach me something and I'm trying to understand it. And we're going back and forth trying to communicate. That's a conversation. That's a deep conversation you're trying to have on things that you're trying to learn that you maybe have a struggle with to learn. That's a perfect opportunity for someone, he's teaching me, for someone like me to learn how to be unconditionally loving and generous emotionally, generous in that moment. When someone is like that and you're not used to that and you don't even know what that looks like in the world because most people are not like that, that is extraordinary to me. And he does it all the time, not just with me, but with other people, and he does it all the time. He is the type of person that doesn't have a negative thing to say about anyone. He finds something supportive to say to you that just lifts you up and makes you feel like $1 million, makes you want to cry because you're so happy and you feel so good about yourself and about life. That's the kinds of friends I want in the world. That's the kinds of friends I want all of you guys to have in the world. I don't want anyone to feel like I felt this week, questioning my existence and questioning who I am as a person and questioning how I come off to other people. Because I live my life in pain and I try every day to become a better person, but I don't always exude that like I should. Don't emotionally beat up people. Emotionally support people and lift them up. We have to battle our strongholds. Love is joy, peace, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. That's Galatians, 2 Peter 1. You know, people put ideas into our heads. You want it to be positive things that come into your head, not negative things. So I'm going to take a break because I just have a little bit left. I just have the one paper left. So now I can slow my roll for real so that I can say some more hellos. Chris, Ryan, I already said hi to some of these people. Let me go a little further. Jim, Rebecca, John, hi. I think that says Chloe. Donald said, when I had my brain injury and was legally brain dead for 6 hours, I actually went through the light, and so Jesus is in heaven. And before my injury, I had known belief in God, Jesus. Oh, you had no belief. And you weren't a believer, Donald, before that? But now I'm very much a believer. Oh, wow. That's awesome. I just watched that movie again. It's the second time I've watched it. I would watch that movie every day if I owned it. It's Heaven is Real, with a little kid that died and had a near-death experience and went to heaven and met Jesus. And he was telling his parents, his dad's a pastor, and his mom's obviously a pastor's wife, and there's the church elders. And all these people were questioning this child's belief that there really is a heaven, which blows my mind, because these are Christians living the Christian life, a preacher, you know, a pastor, and these people are questioning his belief in heaven, you know, that heaven is actually real and that Jesus is real. And then the kid is telling all kinds of things that there's no way he could know. You know, he's just a little tiny kid. If you haven't seen it, this movie is amazing. You don't even have to be a believer to watch it. This movie is amazing. And so he's telling all these things, like the mom had a miscarriage, and he met the other daughter. He met the other girl. So she had he has a sister that's alive, and then he has a sister that didn't live. And so he's describing what she looks like and everything. And the mom, who was not believing any of this stuff, she's just bawling her eyes out, because there's no way that he could have known this. And you know, obviously it was before he was born. And then this other thing, the pastor father, there was his I think it was his grandfather maybe died, and he wasn't a believer. And so he didn't know if he went to heaven. He didn't believe that he was in heaven. And the boy met him in heaven. So he said he is in heaven. So then the pastor, later in the story, I probably shouldn't tell you all the premise of the story, but it's amazing, says to this other woman, she says, do you think my son is in heaven? And he said, do you think that God loves my son more than he loves your son? And she said, no. So then why would my son be in heaven, go to heaven, and your son not go to heaven? And my grandmother, when my grandmother died, my mother and I were in the kitchen. My grandmother wasn't a believer. My mom tried really hard when my grandmother was dying to get her to say she was a believer, you know, to pass over with that feeling, to make us feel better, I guess, about her future. And after my grandma died, my mom and I were having a discussion about that in the kitchen. And there was like a noise, so we looked over, and there was my grandmother's memorial picture, and it had a halo over top of her head in the picture, which to me is amazing. And she and I both just looked at each other. And there's been times when people have said that they see my grandma over my shoulder with flowers. I'm not going to say what kind, because it's something that people say and they don't know. So it's confirmation that that's true. Just so many amazing things. So I definitely am a believer. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind. And as a child, I saw an angel, and I didn't know that's what I saw. I thought I saw Bigfoot glowing in the dark at the foot of my bed. And I was scared to death. You know, I was a little kid, and I used to have all kinds of visions when I was a little kid. And I was in my room, and I was so scared that I was up against the back of the bed like this, like just pressed up against the back of the bed. And I took everything I had just to have the gumption to just move, you know, just to, whoops, that was my book, scooch over out of the room and run downstairs and talk to my dad. Now, Bigfoot glowing in the dark, I remember exactly what it looked like. It was like that, and it was like a lighter color than that, which I have a picture that I made before of of that, and I use the same color. It's a very, very pale. I've seen the color in real life. It's a really pale, like a yellowish white color, and I see it as the umbilical cord to heaven. It's what I call it. I have a painting that I painted. You saw the show last year. You saw it in the background, and it's in that. And it's based on the idea of the aspirations. The sunflowers is one of the reasons I love the sunflowers so much. We all have an umbilical cord to heaven, and you can see it on healers. And I've read about it. Someone said they saw it on me once. He doesn't remember having that conversation, which I find really interesting. He's a Christian, and he didn't know. He just was looking at me, like looking up above my head, like, what is that? And I said, well, what does it look like? Tell me what you're seeing. And he was looking at Home Depot. We were at Ruby Tuesdays in the parking lot. And he said, I don't know, it's kind of like a twisty rope. And I said, oh, it looks like, I've seen it. I saw it to here one time when I was getting Reiki before I was a born again Christian. I saw it. So I knew exactly what he was talking about. I said, oh, that's my umbilical cord from heaven. And it looks like, I saw this years later, I didn't know this before, but the DNA helix is what it looks like. It goes like this. Like that. And then it's got another one that goes through it too. So it has that kind of a look to it. If you look up DNA helix, that's what it looks like, except it's really pale yellow. And I've seen visions of people, someone I was trying to pray with and help, who was going through emotional hard times. And some of you know him. I'm not going to say who it was, but years ago, there was some stuff on Facebook about it. And he was really going through a really hard time. I'm sure that he still goes through a hard time, and I worry about him. But I saw not this helix thing, not the umbilical cord from heaven. I saw like a house, like a house anchor, like I forget what that thing is called. It's like a house anchor. So this is what it looked like, what I saw. Here, let me take that other one off the picture so you don't get confused. Where it goes different directions, and this part goes in the ground. Okay, it's an anchor for a house, so that it doesn't come up out of the ground. And that's what I saw with the helix. How do I do this? With the DNA thing up here. How do I do that? Why is my hand going the wrong way? It won't even go the right way. Okay, like that. Like a spear, like a Mike Vitaliano would know, like a spear. It was just like that, because he's locked in. He's good. And I told him, and he cried. So that was beautiful. Bill, Joseph, Mike, John. That's wonderful, Donald. I've always been very active all my life. It kept me alive in the past. And now it helps me to continue to grow for the rest of your life. Stay active, and always will stay active. Can be very hard for people with disabilities now. I've known many people that have an injury, and now they have many problems. They have problems. I say to keep active with everyone you know. Hi, George, Ed, Bill, Greg, Ram, Dave, David, Tina, Joey, Eddie, Gary, Bill, Michael, Brian. That's who saw it. So I actually saw Jesus in Heaven, May 4th, 1989 at 9:36 p.m. I actually went through the light and saw Jesus in heaven. That's amazing. Does anybody else have any cool stories like that? Of like weird things that you guys have seen or near-death experiences? I had a near-death experience while I'm waiting for you guys to type in your comments. And I talk about it all the time, actually. I had 3 serious car accidents within a year of each other. 2 of them were in 6 months of each other. The first one I'm going to tell you about quickly. I got hit by a car that was pulling off the off-ramp, and they didn't stop at the red light, and they just kept going. When it turned green, they just kept going, barreling through the intersection. And they were taking a left, and I was going straight. And so I pulled out, just inching out. Had I pulled out just a little bit sooner, or had they gone a little bit faster or a little bit further, then I would be dead, because where my driver's side wheel was in the engine of the car. And my driver's side door, half of my driver's side door was crushed. And that's why I have these scars all over my lips and all over my face, because I had shards of glass in my face. And then the second car accident, 6 months later, was I had just had a miscarriage. So I had the hormones from pregnancy, and I was just going back to work, and my ex let me go out first, and I was listening to Dixie Chicks singing my heart out really loud, and I backed out. He let me go first, so I backed out into a reverse T-bone. Here's his car, here's my car. And I got out because I couldn't see to drive forward because there was frost on the window, and I got out, and I was inside the door. So I had one leg inside the car, one leg on the ground outside the car, and I was leaning over like that, scraping the window. So this arm was inside of the car. This whole part of my entire body got squished inside the frame of the top of the car door. My leg, I still have a dent. They said I was never going to walk again. I'm not showing you my leg. I didn't shave. But I have a dent in my leg, and I'll permanently have a dent in my leg because that got crushed inside the frame of the bottom of the car. So I was wedged in the car, this arm out, this arm like this inside the car, and this shoulder's all crushed in the car. And I couldn't beep the horn because my arm was stuck. So I couldn't let him know that he hit me because he had a standard and his car jerked forward, and then he was going to back up again. And my body was shut inside the car door. So I was just hanging there, stuck inside the car door. Had he backed up again, I'd be dead. I had an out-of-body experience. I did not see Jesus or anything like that. I didn't see angels. But I had an out-of-body experience from up here at one of the higher-up apartments, the upstairs apartment on the other side of the building. And I saw what was happening. And I heard that telepathy message. And I used my fingernails and pushed the horn and beeped the horn. And he came running. He pulled the door off of me. I crumpled inside the car, went to the emergency room and all that. I absolutely believe that an angel protected me, because that car door, when I got back from the hospital and he opened up that door the next day, that car door had bent around my body. There was an imprint of me in the styrofoam on the inside of the door. And that was a screw that went through my leg. I didn't have any broken bones. I've never had a broken bone in my life. I didn't have any broken bones. Nothing at all happened to me, except that my foot got stuck like that for 6 months. Had to be on crutches. They didn't think it was going to go back to normal. And I ended up with a blood clot because of being pregnant. I had that predisposition for blood clotting. So I ended up with a blood clot in my leg and swelled up my foot really, really, really bad. So that's 2 car accidents in 6 months. And then the other one, the whole right side of my car got crushed by this lady. She was like 78 years old, and she was driving while on the phone in traffic, and she hit me into a median, like a median on the highway. She went across like 3 lanes of highway, like main road, and she pushed me into a street sign. So again, 3 miracles in a very short amount of time. I fully believe that I was protected by God, by angels. Pick below the pick is the article about me. To write on the wall is my life in a nutshell. And below the pick is the article about me and what happened. I read that before Donald. You guys should read that, what happened to Donald. Donald is somebody that's on my blog all the time. We're good friends. And this is his story. It's absolutely amazing. It's an amazing story of survival. And he's an amazing guy. He's really nice. So it tells his story. Felton, Mike Panis, Patrick. So hi, everybody. It's almost time to end the show. Let me say this last little part. So we were supposed to talk about what is your personality. And I wanted to thank everyone for unconditional love, for unconditionally loving me and for unconditionally loving other people. So keep the world at bay so you are good, even when you're exposed to bad stuff. So this is something that I teach a lot in my workshops and that I've blogged about before, and something that I got reiterated in the sermons that I posted to you guys. What you surround yourself with influences you. So one of the questions that I ask people, here's your high five. One of the questions that I ask people as I'm talking to them is, why would angels want to hang around with you if you're watching things like horror movies or, blood and guts, gore, rape, murder, horrible things on TV? Of course, the people, the entities that are going to want to be around you, the people that are going to want to be around you in your life are going to be negative entities, negative souls, because that's who can bear that. Angels and people that are loving and pure aren't going to want to be around blood and guts and gore. Now, mind you, I love and this is conviction for me as well, from what my pastor said and from what I teach myself, because I say this to myself all the time. And if something comes on and it's too bad, I turn it off or I mute it. If I'm watching the Law and Order series, Criminal Minds, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, the one with Olivia that I love her so much, Special Victims Unit, NCIS, and Criminal Minds. Those are the ones I really, really love, those shows. I don't like the CSI ones because I don't like all the gory stuff that they show. And I don't watch the gory stuff on some of the other ones, but it's not as much gory stuff that they show. But I watch them for the storyline. I watch them for the justice. And I watch them, because I like the characters. They're my friends. No, I'm just kidding. I do. I love the characters on those shows. So be careful. The things that you're putting into your life, the things that you're putting out in your life, be careful, be on guard and make sure that what you're putting out into the world is positive. And that you're expressing yourself in the ways that you want other people to appreciate you for. On your deathbed, or not on your deathbed, that's a different phrase I say for a different situation. Oh, no, actually, I'll say that too. So on your deathbed, do you want to be looking back at your life and thinking all about, all the political wins you had, all the arguments that you had with people about politics? Are you going to care about that on your deathbed? Is that going to be one of the things that signifies who you are as a person, that you fought better than anybody else fights? Is that how you want to be known? When you die, when people are telling your eulogy and they're speaking at your funeral, what are the things that you want people to say about you at that time? What are the things that you want your friends and you want strangers and other people that are around at that time and that are reading posts about you and that are reading the newspaper article about you? What do you want people to know about you at that time? What do you want people to remember you by? Make your life mean something. Make the world a better place because you exist in it. So the personality that you put out into the world, your traits, like we discussed last week, what are your positive traits? What is your social media blasting all over it? What is, all over your social media? All of those things should be positive things about you as a person that show that you're a good person, that you have good morals and good values, that you lift other people up, not push other people down, that you unconditionally love and that you live in purest peace. And again, I want to reiterate again, and if you didn't watch the whole show, please watch the whole show so you get the whole message. I do not purport to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I wrote the series of books, which I dropped. The second book is out, by the way. It's published, so you can look for the link to go hopefully buy it if you want. I wrote the series of books, and I do this show, and I created that website in 1999, and I started the writing in 7th grade because I needed the help for myself. All of the stuff that I teach is stuff that I learned myself, and oftentimes I'm learning currently as I'm teaching it. So I do not purport in any way, shape, or form to be perfect or the end-all be-all resource on anything. I have studied things. I do a lot of research, a lot more research than anybody else I've ever met. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of statistical research through the census bureaus and the government agencies. I read and pore through the data to come up with stuff for my writing, to teach you guys things that are going on and to teach you things that we're thinking that in society and regurgitating in society, which are wrong, that shouldn't be taught that way because they're not correct, shouldn't be spread around that way because they're not correct. But I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying I'm here trying to help. That's it. Pretty much that's it. Oh, you're writing a book on traumatic brain injury. Awesome. And hope, I'm sure, and how to survive through it. Hi, Clarence, Stefano, Joe, Talby, Brendan, Jeremy, Bobby, Chris Beebe, Richard, Patrick. So we didn't get a lot of comments, actually. A lot of the comments were just from Donald. This show is supposed to be more interactive, everyone. This year, it's supposed to be us really connecting, and you guys are supposed to be commenting and saying things about what I'm talking about. The question on the board, what is your personality? What are the traits that make you who you are? The positive traits that make you who you are? How do you interact with your friends? What kind of advice? Hi, Joshua. What are the kinds of advice you give to your friends in the moments? Since some people just joined, even though it's 9:04, I'm going to go through that real quick. Just a little summaries here. What is your nature? What is your personality? You want to put forth the unconditional virtues. How are you seeing things happen in your life? Are you seeing things happen in your life through dark sunglasses with blinders on so you can't really see anything clearly? Or are you seeing things through rose-colored glasses that are just magnifiers to look at one specific thing or just a few things without being able to see everything else around you? Or are you seeing the world through prescription glasses, which I cannot look through right now because I'll blind myself because I have my contacts in? Are you seeing yourself through prescription rose-colored glasses so that you can see everything well and from a positive perspective? What kind of friend are you? Are you a gossiper? Are you validating your friends by bashing others? Or are you lifting your friends up toward their goals? If they're in a relationship with someone, you should be supporting that relationship with that person. You should be supporting their goals of wanting to be in a relationship. We should be loving all of our neighbors, and everybody is all of our neighbors. We all live in this world together. The 4 prerequisites for unity are humility, unconditional love, yielding of our will for the betterment of our relationships, tenderness toward others, glow in love. The unconditional virtues, some of them again are grace, kindness, goodness, calmness, sweetness, caring, compassion, and being emotionally giving in a positive way. Our purpose of life is unity, love, bonding, positive construction, blah, blah, blah. Positive, constructive encouragement is what we should be putting out, moving others toward their goals, not pushing or pulling them away from their goals or other people. Sometimes we call our advice support, but it's the opposite of supportive. So search yourself during your conversations to make sure that you're being positive and that you're being loving toward all people, not just to the one person who's venting to you in the moment, feeling like they need validation. Instead, be loving toward all people, because we all need that. And we all need to understand that bitterness turns the heart hard and wounded people act out. So when you think someone is a jerk, you need to unconditionally love them. And you need to realize that just because what you think you're seeing is them being a jerk, there's a reason for that. There's an underlying reason for that. You know, you need to unconditionally love them. You need to figure out how inside of yourself you can understand that you have things about yourself that aren't great either, and unconditionally love that other person too. And that's what heals us. Okay, so that's all, folks. Ibbity, ibbity, ibbity. That's all, folks. Hi, Dave, Paul, Greg, Wendell. Hi, babe. All right, everybody. The show is 10 minutes past time, so I got to go. YouTube didn't get any viewers, so I did share the link to the YouTube up above. So next week, again, I'll try that again. I'll do it the same way, and I'll try to get it on there because it posts across the other accounts, and I have to set up the other accounts so that it'll share to the Instagram, and it'll show. But right from there, I can share it to my blogger. I can share it to my Instagram, my Twitter, all of my Facebook accounts. I can share it across. Is that all of them that I have? Google Plus, like all the accounts that I have, I can share them across there so that more people can get these messages. I love you guys. Thank you for coming. And thank you for unconditionally loving me and unconditionally loving each other.